Hello Jackdaws and Ravens. It's Friday. This is our last video for this week. It's using everything that we've learned about fractions and remembering that we can count up in fractions just like we would in normal number sequences. So we're going to be looking at sequences today, but counting up in fractions or counting backwards sometimes. So I've got a number line on the board and the fractions are given to you pictorially. So first we need to identify what these fractions are. So we're going to look at our first one down here, and what fraction is represented by these pictures. Pause the video and have a go, and you should be able to see that we've got one whole. So I'm going to mark one whole, and I've got 1 out of 4, so it's 1 and 1/4, just like that. Now we're going to move on to our second one. Pause the video if you'd like to jump ahead and work out the finished number line, and then join back in with us to solve it. So we did the first one, which was 1 and 1/4. The second picture, I can see I've got a whole again, but this time I've got 2 out of 4, or 2/4 can also be described as a half, because I've got half of this whole shaded. So then we're going to say that's 1 and a half. We really need to start recognising when it's 2/4, 3/6, 5/10, 4/8. You really need to start recognising that that is a half. Some questions may accept it if you wrote it as 1 and 2/4, but some tests and in some exams they might be quite mean and not allow it. So you do need to start recognising those half equivalents, okay? And the next one, 1 whole again. And this time I've got 1, 2, 3 out of the 4. So it's 1 and 3/4, 1 and 2 wholes. So I can just write that as 2 wholes. And then I've got 2 wholes and 1 out of 4. So that is 2 and 1/4. Well done if you got that right and completed your number line. But the question for this might be, what is this sequence going up in? So working out the mixed numbers just makes it a little bit clearer for us to work out what it's going up in. So we need to look at our starter, 1 and 1/4. And then it jumped to 1 and a half, or 1 and 2/4. So what was added on from this fraction to this fraction? And you should spot that it was this. And what is this? What's the value of one of those sections? It's 1/4, isn't it? So it added on 1/4, like that. Let's just double check. So if we're at 1 and a half, or 1 and 2/4, next it was 1 and 3/4, and we can see, look, there's an extra one added on. The difference between this one and this one is another 1/4. So yes, this sequence is going up in quarters, like that. Okay, happy so far? I've got another example here for you, but this time there are some missing fractions in our sequence. Some of them are given for us, they've been given to us pictorially, and they've given us the mixed number. I'm not sure if you can see that, but we've got 1 and 2/3, and I can see that shown here with my 1 whole and 2/3. Then I've got 2 and 2/3, and then 3 and 1/3, and I can see all of that shown there. So this might be, draw on the number line and it will give you a fraction to put on. So we need to work out what this is going up in if we're going to have any chance of putting in the right ones. So I'm going to look at this gap here, first of all, because I don't know what goes here. We're trying to work that out. What has changed between 1 and 2/3 and 2 and 2/3? What's changed? What's gone up? What's increased? And it's increased by 1 whole, hasn't it? Because it went from 1 and 2/3 to 2 and 2/3. The fraction left over hasn't changed, but it's increased by 1 whole. Then we've got to think, this gap is 1 whole. But within that, I've got 1, let's change colour so you can see. I've got 1, 2, 3. So if I've got a whole, the jump is a whole, but it's split into 3, what is each of these sections worth? And that's right, it's going to be a third. So this sequence is jumping by a third each time. Let's check that in here, because we've got only a gap of 1. There's one missing fraction in here in this line. So we've got 2 2/3. What's going to be the next fraction if we add 1/3? And you should see that we're on 2 2/3. It's going to be then 2 3/3. Now, would we write that as 2 3/3? Like this? 2 3/3. Would we write that? Because what does 3/3 mean? It means we've got another whole. So actually in here, I would just put 3 wholes if I've added another third. And then to check our theory, what's 3 wholes add a third? And that's right, it's going to be 3 1/3, just like that. Can you see that? So, my question to you, I might delete some of my scribbles now. Right, I'll leave them for you to help you. Where would you put 2 wholes on this number line? Where would the number 2 wholes go on this number line? We know what it's going up in, which is thirds. Where would 2 wholes come? So I'm going to go 1 2/3. If I add on another third, 1 2/3. If I add on another third, I'm going to get to 2. I'll have 2 wholes when I get to here. Because if we look at the picture of the first fraction, imagine if I shaded in or added in another third, I've got 2 wholes. So yes, the next one in the sequence is going to be 2, followed by 2 1/3. Well done. A little bit messy, but I just wanted to show you all the information that was given to you in this question. So when you see these types of questions, you shouldn't panic and be like, oh, I just don't know. You need to work out what the sequence is going up in first, which is what we did with our jump of 1. We wanted to know what was happening. Let's apply that, shall we, to one like this. So we've had some fractions given to us, and it looks like they are doing mixed numbers along the bottom. And what do you think is going to be along the top then? Improper fractions, the inverse or the opposite to mixed numbers. So we've gone from 5/9 to 7/9. So what is that gap? If we've gone from 5/9 to 7/9 or 5 to 7, what have we added on? And that's right, we've gone 6, 7. We've added 2. And the denominator all along this number line is 9ths. So that tells us we've added 2 9ths each jump. So carry on the sequence for me along the top. Pause the video to have a go yourself and then join back in when you're ready to solve it. So we were on 7/9. What's that going to be when we add another 2 9ths? 7 9ths, 8 9ths, 9 9ths. Oh, what's 9 9ths equivalent to? It's going to be 1 whole. And we can see they've put 1 as the mixed number for there, but 9 9ths and 1 are the same. They mean the same. Right, let's carry on along the top. 9 9ths, 10 9ths, 11 9ths, and then 12 13 9ths, 14 15 9ths, 16 17 9ths, and 18 19 9ths. Oh, don't know where I was going with that. 19 9ths. And then 20, 21 9ths. We've completed the number line like that, going up in 2 9ths each time. Let's complete the bottom with the mixed numbers. So we've got 5 9ths, 7 9ths, 1 whole. 1 2 9ths. What is that fraction going to be next? We've got 1 2 9ths. We're still adding on 2 9ths each time, so we'll ignore the whole for a minute. If we were on 2 9ths, 3 9ths, 4 9ths. So that's going to be 1 whole, and 4 9ths, just like that. What about next? 4 9ths, 5 9ths, 6 9ths. So it's going to be 1 and 6 9ths. And again, 6, 7 9ths, 8 9ths. 1 and 8 9ths. And then, what's going to happen now? We're on 1 1/8 9ths. If I add one more, I've got 1 and 9/9, or we could say that was 2 wholes, but that was only adding on 1 more ninth. We are adding on 2 ninths. So if we're on 2 wholes, it's going to be 2 and 1/9 for that next one, and then 2, 3, 2 and 3/9. I hope that makes sense. We're just counting in fractions, and you've got to think about the cubes and the bars that I showed you on Monday for equivalent fractions of what would that look like, and that's all I'm doing in my head, is I'm imagining something split into 9. That's what I'm trying to think, and that's what I do in my head to help me with fractions and number lines. Right. This is still a number line, if you like, or a sequence. It's just telling you sort of as you would count it. That's what the commas are saying. But it simply wants to know the next 3 fractions, or mixed numbers in this case, in this sequence. So, first thing we do, we need to work out the jump. And this has gone from 6 and 1/11 to 5 and 8/11. So, is this sequence going up or down? If it's gone from 6 wholes to 5 wholes. That's right, it's going down. So we're taking away something. We don't know quite what yet. So I'm going to count back in my 11th. So I'm on 6 and 1/11. If I take 1 away, I'm on 6 wholes. If I take 1 away again, I know I'm going to have 5 and 10/11. Because if we imagine 6 and 1/11. If we just take 1 away, we've got 6 wholes. If I take 1 away, I'm going to be in 5 wholes because we're going backwards, and then we need to have 1 less than a whole, which means we need to have 10 out of the 11, and then keep going. 5 and 9/11, 5 and 8/11. What are we going back to? Oh, 5 and 8/11. Look, that's the next one. So how many 11ths have I counted back? And I can see that was our start. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So what is this sequence going down in? That's right, it's going down in 4/11. So we're taking away 4/11 each time. So we need to count again. Let's write it down. It doesn't matter if you need to jot it down to work out some of the questions today. So we're starting on 5 and 8/11. Take away an 11th would be 5 and 7/11. 5 and 6/11. 5 and 5/11. And how many are we taking away? Only 4, so let's check. Started here. 1, 2, 3. Oh, it's smart, you've got to do 1 more. Count back. 5 and 5/11. Take away an 11th, or take away that slice or that piece, and would leave us with 5 and 4/11. So that is the next one in my box. 5 and 4/11. Next one. Right, starting 5 and 4/11 would go 5 and 3/11, 5 and 2/11, 5 and 1/11. 1, 2, 3. Oh, again. If I take away 1/11 from 5 and 1/11, what's that going to leave me with? Just 5 wholes. So the next one in my sequence is going to be 5, and we could have spotted that. If we've got 5 and 4/11 and we're going to take 4/11 away, we know that's going to be 5. And for my last one, we only had 5 holes. 4, because we're at 5, we're going down. 4, 7, let's check. So 4 and 10/11, 4 and 9/11, 4 and 8/11, 4 and 7/11. Is that 4 started at 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, got it right in the end. So the final one in this sequence is 4 and 7/11ths. I hope that makes sense. One more before I set you off on your work today, and it is a spot the mistake really. You've got the question 11 something 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 10, and it wants you to fill in the missing numbers in this sequence. Someone has said there are 3 boxes, so the sequence is going up in thirds. Well, what is this sequence actually doing? It's going down because we've got 11 and then 10. So straight away this isn't correct, but would this work if we put thirds? Pause the video and have a go. So, should have had a chance to think about that now. I'm going to draw a number line to help us represent this. So at one end of my number line I've got 10 and I've got 11 there, and it splits. It's got 3 missing numbers, hasn't it? We've got 3 boxes to fill in. Now the question said it must be thirds because there's 3 boxes, but if you look on my number line, how many sections does this number line actually have? It's got 1, 2, 3 and 4. So what do we think this number line is going up in? It's not thirds because the whole is split into 4. What would it be if we had 11 wholes and we were taking away, remember we're taking away because we're going down to 10. What would happen if you 11 wholes take away a quarter? You would be left with 10 and 3/4. And take away another quarter, it would be 10 and a half, or 10 and 2/4. But we know 2/4 is the same as a half. And then finally, 10 and a half or 10 and 2/4 take away a quarter is going to be 10 and a quarter, like that. So don't be tricked out thinking there's 3 boxes, because you've got to think about it as a number line with parts in it, and we found out this actually had 2 parts. Have a go at today's worksheet. It is a little bit tricky, but once you get familiar with counting in your fractions, I promise you it will be a lot easier. Okay, see you next week.